Hi, I'm Mike Maloney, and welcome to another CSRM podcast. Today's episode is hosted by Dr. Greg Linville.
Hi, welcome back to this week's edition of the CSRM podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Linville, and with me is two of my very special friends, two of my favorite people in all of the sports ministry world, Angie and Dante. Welcome, folks.
Hi there.
Thank you.
He says that about everybody too.
Yeah. And so if you missed last week, you might want to go back, and it's archived. You can find it on the CSRM website, csrm.org, and it'll give you an introduction to not only this Ref My Game app that can help you in your sports ministry, but give you a little bit of background to Angie and Dante. And just a brief summary, Angie has been a sports minister at a local church for a number of years. She's upset if I'd say how many decades. It hasn't been all that long, but she's a veteran. She's experienced, and she's understands what it feels like to be there every single day. And Dante has been in baseball and baseball ministry for the same kind of period of time, and has a little bit of an international in Croatia and the Dominican, as well as in another foreign country that people might call Ohio. We welcome both of you, and we're appreciative of your commitment to the Lord Jesus Christ, and also your commitment to helping churches. And you guys came up with an idea because somewhat of Angie's background and somewhat of in the sports ministry to church, of not having referees show up or trying to schedule them to begin with, and Dante being on the baseball field and wondering where an umpire is. And you thought, how can we help this and take away some of these headaches? And so you have created a vision for an app. And again, let's just give people the name of the app, and then give the contact information if they're interested in this. And if you're watching it, it'll come up on the screen. And if you're driving or you're on the treadmill and you're listening to this as an app and you can't quite catch it, you don't have a chance to write it down, just know you can get this archived on the CSRM website, and it'll all be there. And we're putting it on at the first part of this. So if you don't want to watch the whole thing again, you can just see the first part. But give us the information there.
Okay, the app is called Ref My Game. And it's a traditional app that you're going to be able to get on the Play Store or in the Apple Store. And our contact information, we will have a website, and it'll be refmygameapp.com. And I'll also give out our phone number, and Angie will have an email address as well. So I'm going to give out that email address. So our phone number is 330-940-3910, 3910.
Yeah, so let's say that again, 330-940-3910.
3910.
Got
And
it.
that'll ring into the technology company that we own, called Brisk Consulting, and one of our associates will answer it. But that's how you get a hold of us.
And did you say that Angie had an email address?
Yeah, why don't you give your email address, which we're still setting up, but it'll be active.
Yeah, so it's just Angie, ANGIE, at refmygameapp.com. So REF my MY game app app.com.
And now let's go a little bit more into the details of this. You explain, first of all, for those that didn't catch last week, why is this important to the sports minister at the local church, Angie?
Yeah, so this is, and you mentioned it last week when you talked about how just as sports ministry, there's so many things to do. sports in general. There's just so many things that you have to have your mind on, timing, coaches, are they there? Are the doors unlocked? Are the lights on? Are the snack bar people there? Is the scorekeeper there? There's so many things. And something you mentioned last week that I thought, as church sports, right? Because there's oftentimes that we get called a church league, which grinds me, because it's like, no, I want to be a competitive league that's held in a church. I don't want to be differentiated, because when I think of church league, I think what people think is the leftovers, the ones that didn't make their school team, or it's like, it's just hokey, or, whatever it is. And I, as someone who always strives to make sure I'm putting on the best league possible, the refs are a part of that. And if refs don't show up, I do not want people to say, oh, it's just a church league. It's kind of expected there. And so I wanted to make sure I always had every piece there. And so refs are a huge part of that. They're the people that you hope that they're doing well enough that people aren't thinking about them, but they're always being thought of because they screw up somehow or another, right? And so I wanted to make sure they were at least there. That's the one part of them that I can kind of control, right? And so back in the day before this app, there was just so much time spent on scheduling them, reminding them that this week is your games, and then the day of reminding them that don't forget tonight is your game, please be here at X time, and wearing your non-sweats, all the things that you shouldn't think of, you wouldn't have to think about, but you do. And making sure they had the right location, all that stuff. And so this is just a way to not have to put so much thought. It's still going to be thoughts that you have to have, but it's all streamlined into one app to help make your life easier. And even when problems arise, hope the solutions come simpler. And then you can focus on the real important things, like proclaiming the love of Jesus Christ to the people that are at the building with you, doing devotions for the kids that are there, announcing the teams and being excited about it, as opposed to calling the ref and saying, where are you? Those are just all the things that you can kind of let go of a little bit, hopefully, and allow this app to do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, I wish I'd have had it all the years that I was doing that, certainly. Dante, anything to add to that?
Always. I thought of one of the unique features, because Angie just mentioned, where's the umpire? And sometimes, or the referee, I'm coming from a baseball perspective, sometimes
let's just stop there. It is for all of the above. It's not just for refs or umpires, but it's for anybody that's officiating at a game, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah,
and it's also not just for sports ministry. It can be used for traditional businesses as well. But it's going to be huge in the sports ministry world because of all the things that we said. A lot of times in sports ministry, the director has to wear 1,000 hats. And one of those hats is making sure that the referees and the umpires are there.
Right.
And one of the things that is legitimate is traffic, for instance. Someone's at work, they leave, they thought they had enough time to get to referee the game, and they're stuck in traffic, or not stuck, but just running behind. And one of the features that this app is going to have is the ability to see where they are on a map. And I mentioned Uber last week, and that's one of the cool things about it. You put in your requests for a driver, and it's kind of even fun to watch the little car drive to you and turn around the corner, and you can see when he's there. But it would make the person that's coordinating this feel a lot better if they could just look at their phone, look at the app, and see that the person is on the way. Even if they're going to be 5 minutes late, we're hoping to have the technology in there that'll actually give us the arrival time, the estimated arrival time through Google Maps. But in the first iteration, even if that's not there, you'll be able to see that at least they're heading in your direction, and so it'll just give you even if they're 5 minutes late, it will give you a comfort level and just a relief.
Yeah, the word there, comfort, that for the sports minister, the league director, and they got parents and players and what's going on, you can say, look, right here, see where they are, they'll be here. And I think that's a huge advantage to this. Now, what would be the details? How does person, they're interested in this, how do they go about accessing this and making this start to happen in their local church or league?
Well, let me say that the app should be available before the spring. We're saying winter of 2022, so that gives us 3 months. And the developers are on schedule. They tell us that they haven't run into any major issues, so we're still looking at winter of 2022. It'll be on the App Store, as I mentioned earlier, and it's a free download. It's not one that you're going to have to pay for or anything like that. So what we're hoping will happen is that we're not sure exactly who's going to drive the downloads, but let's just say that a church wants to use it. They'll download the app, and there's going to be a little bit of coordination in the beginning. And so again, we want to include the assigners in this process. So what we're hoping happens is that the church or the sports ministry organization will contact the assigners and say, hey, get all of your referees on this app. It's free for them. They'll get paid through the app. It's a direct deposit into their bank account. And then the assigner would take the responsibility of just saying to all of their referees and umpires, hey, download the app for free. And so that's, once everybody has it, then you start connecting, and you can reschedule people that you like. You can rate the umpire. And another little feature that we added in here is that the umpire or referee will be able to rate the coach. So again, we're trying to help elevate the level of play and the respect that the players have towards the umpire, and the umpire has towards the players and referees. So we're building a lot of features in that'll help do that.
And this is one of the reasons I know that personally that I am so supportive of it and so excited about it, is because in the local church, sometimes we're looked at as being not quite as professional or not quite as good. Sometimes there is that mentality. Now, due to people like Angie, the church that she's been serving at, that church has been seen as the model for excellence for many, many years. And that's where we want to get at. And I think that what you've created here helps the church. If they're not there, if they're not as excellent as they should be, it forces them, because they're being evaluated. The coaches are being evaluated. The officials are being evaluated and rated. And if they are doing it well, that'll come through. And other officials, umpires, referees, and maybe other coaches and people are going to want to come there because it's got a great reputation. So kudos to you guys for that insight. So talk to us a little bit about the financing of it. People are sitting here saying, oh, this sounds great, but it's going to cost me an arm and a leg. I got to pay these two thousands of dollars. How does that work? And before you start, I'll just say that I already have been told by them prior to our recording that they are donating some of the proceeds of this to various ministries, and they are involved in a sports mission, and it helps fund lots of things. So with that in mind, that bring people into what's the financial background here?
Okay. Yeah, we wanted to have a model where it wasn't subscription based. We will eventually come up with a subscription model, and that'll be for like larger organizations and whatnot. But for the beginning, what we wanted to do is make it sort of a pay per use type of a thing. And again, I use Uber as the example because most people are familiar with it. Just for the convenience, it's worth a few bucks. So what the model is, it's going to be $1.50 fee per game. So, and that'll come through when they pay the umpire or referee. And so some people are going to sit there and add it up and say, okay, we're going to be spending these thousands of dollars. But the reality is that, like Angie, she used to do scheduling for the church, and they would pay her a couple bucks extra per game to schedule the umpires or referees. And so we believe that it's going to save not only money, but time. And time is a valuable commodity, especially in the sports ministry world, especially when you're trying to get to the real purpose of why they're there, which is the ministry aspects of it. And if you're sitting there trying to call a referee or umpire to get them there or figure out where they are, that can take away from the true purpose of the ministry.
Yeah, let me bang that drum a little bit, because I think when our sports ministers go to their financial chair or board or even their senior pastor, and I say, I'm going to get this app and it's going to cost us this amount of money, they're going to say, whoa. But then you've got to be prepared and go into that person and say, let me just tell you, in a conservative estimation, how many hours this took me prior to this. And it costs, when my hourly rate is added at times that, suddenly there's thousands of dollars that the church has already been paying because they've been paying for my time or our administrator's time or somebody's time. And then we don't even have the same kind of quality and excellence of knowing that people are showing up and that we're getting good people. And to help the sports minister with this, selling this, Angie, any thoughts? Am I on track at all, or how can you add to that?
Yeah, so you're paying an assigner anyway, like whether it's through the schools, here in Ohio, the OHSAA or wherever you are, but you're going to pay an assigner. Most of those assigners, I believe, at least all the ones I know, get paid 10% of the game. Now there's some associations here in Canton where that 10% will actually come out of the official's paycheck. I know at First Friends, and I would assume a lot of church sports leagues, you can put that percentage into the budget. So your people are actually paying for it. Right. And so, so for me, when I was the assigner, I got 10% of whatever so that's what's great about that. If you're going to pay $50 for a game, then the assigner gets $5. So no matter what your cost for your game that you're passing out, the assigner will get 10%, and then there is that extra $1.50. But when you can write it off into your leagues or package it into your leagues, it's not, at least at the church I was at, it's not the church who's spending the extra money. It's the league that's spending the extra money, and it's going to be the league that benefits from the spending of the extra money. When you get higher quality officials, because what happened in the past is that, I can't get somebody canceled, so I have to get somebody, and this person really isn't that good, but they're right down the road, and so it's like you're getting officials that will show up but aren't really the best officials that you can get. And so I think the league is going to benefit from that. And then again, walking into your pastor or whoever gives the A-OK, I mean, where do you want me to spend my time? Do you want me to spend my time getting officials, or do you want me to do what I'm actually hired to do, which is to talk about the gospel, share the gospel with the people who signed up to be in this league and their parents and, all that kind of stuff. And I think sometimes when you put it like that, well, yeah, we hired you to share the gospel. We didn't hire you to find officials. So. Excellent.
Really, really excellent. And just amen and kudos to you guys again for this. And anything of quality is going to cost a certain amount of money. And you are going to pay for poor quality in other ways. And so this gives you, the sports minister at a church, a chance to raise your game, so to speak. So again, we're talking with Angie and Dante about Ref My Game, and go back to the beginning of this and pick up all the contact information. We're down to our last couple minutes here. Angie, what's one of the main lessons that you have learned being in sports ministry, that how can you help the sports minister in a general sense, move beyond the referees and umpires, but generally, what does it take to be successful, to be effective, just to be who God wants you to be there?
It's another question you just threw in there. There's so many things. Man, I do think, and again, this is something you used to say, and I never really took it super seriously. Just putting that out there.
I remember that.
But it's so true. I remember you would always say, when you first get in the office, or, whenever you first get there, like, spend time in the Word, spend time in prayer, spend time in devotions. My problem was I would always get in there and I'd have all the intentions in the world to do that. And then I'd look at my emails, or I'd look at my desk, or I'd whatever, or think about how much I needed to do. And I would let that go. And so I think as I was there longer, you hopefully get wiser when you get older. And so that changed a bit for me, but that's still, man, part of my personality is I'm very detail oriented and I want things to be perfect and, all that stuff. And so when you don't take that seriously, you kind of, I don't want to say, you kind of almost forget the purpose of being there, I guess is what I would say. And so you don't want your God to become the details or any of that. You want God to be God and God to lead everything, who's going to be at the games and who's going to be your coaches. And I don't know. So anyway, I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned. I don't know that I'm always perfect at it because the details, I've got lists everywhere. And so that's always something, I mean, God wired me that way. So how can I use that also? But yeah, I think that's a good one. And so I think the fact that we have to tell, I'm sure I'm not the only one, but the fact that we have to tell other people in sports ministry to put God first seems really weird, but I know that it's true because you do have, the people are watching everything you do. And so and in my mind was always, I have to have a good league. I have to have one where people are sad it's over and not like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad this thing is done. So that was always my thing, but yeah.
That's so wise and it's so helpful. And what you're really saying, what they say to us on the airlines is put our mask on first before we can help anybody else in the case of problems. And the sports minister oftentimes is facing certain things that nobody else in ministry does. In other words, we're out there, aren't we? We're battling on the court or on the field and the emotions and the competitiveness. And if we're not deep with Jesus, what rises to the surface is our own flesh and our own shortfalls. And so the wisdom that you've just shared, Angie, is much appreciated. We got to go deep with Jesus ourselves to keep us where we need to be in all these times. Well, I can't thank you enough.
One thing, what you just said is we're out on the court, right? And so when you're out in battle, your true self comes to the top. And so what is your true self? And I've seen a lot of people in ministry be some of the worst attitudes on the court. And I've heard people say, that guy's a pastor or, so that's what we have to be taken care of too. And I'm not saying I'm the most patient person in the world and I'm not, but I think as I've gotten older, I think that has, changed a bit. And so who's your true self that's going to rise to the top when the game gets tight? Excellent.
Well, again, thanks for being with us today. And for those that are tuning in, be sure to go back to the last week. Everything's archived on the CSRM website. You can get this and literally hundreds of other podcasts that'll help you do the very thing you're called to do better. And Angie and Dante cannot thank you enough, and know that we're praying and hoping that this app is going to be just the thing that so many sports ministers need. But thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Your prayers too.
All right. Look forward to talking to you in the future on another podcast. And we're going to be talking about some international things. We're going to be talking about some local church stuff through it all. Thanks for joining us. Bye now.
The CSRM podcast is a production of the Association of Church Sports and Recreation Ministers and their video production house, Overwhelming Victory Flix. Dr. Greg Linville is the executive producer, and Andrew Fouts is associate producer and editor. For more information about CSRM, visit csrm.org. For more information about Overwhelming Victory, visit overwhelmingvictory.org. The CSRM podcast is the flagship member of the podcast network Overwhelming Victory Radio. For more information on Overwhelming Victory Radio, or to listen to our partner podcasts, visit overwhelmingvictory.org/OV Radio. For CSRM Podcasts, I'm Mike Maloney. Have a blessed day.